For a generation of fans, Hogwarts was never just a set. It was Diagon Alley market stalls and candlelit feasts in the Great Hall, brought to life by a cast of extraordinary British and Irish actors who gave the wizarding world its warmth, its menace, and its heart. Many of those actors were already legends of stage and screen long before they ever put on a robe, and in the years since the films wrapped, we have said goodbye to several of them. This is a look back at 10 performers whose work made Harry Potter unforgettable, and whose lives, on and off screen, deserve to be remembered with care and respect. Alan Rickman was born on February 21, 1946, in the Acton area of West London, the son of a factory worker who died when Alan was just 8 years old. Raised by his mother alongside 3 siblings in modest circumstances, Rickman initially trained as a graphic designer before switching paths in his 20s to study acting at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. It was a late start by industry standards, but one that gave him an unusual depth and patience as a performer. He built a reputation in British theater through the 1970s and 80s before international audiences discovered him as the icy, magnetic villain Hans Gruber in Die Hard in 1988, a role that instantly made him one of cinema's most quotable antagonists. When Rickman was cast as Professor Severus Snape in 2001, he was already 55 years old and a respected veteran of stage and screen, known for Sense and Sensibility, Truly Madly Deeply, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. He would stay with the character for a full decade, across all 8 films, slowly peeling back Snape's cold exterior to reveal one of the most tragic and beloved arcs in the entire series. Rickman reportedly knew details of Snape's true loyalties years before most of the cast, having been given hints by author J.K. Rowling early on, which allowed him to thread that quiet ambiguity through every scene. Rickman kept his personal life largely private. He had been in a relationship with economist and politician Rima Horton since they were both in their late teens, and the couple married quietly in 2012 after decades together. In 2015, following what was described as a minor stroke, Rickman learned that he had advanced pancreatic cancer. He chose not to make the diagnosis public, continuing to work on projects including Eye in the Sky and The Alice through the Looking Glass sequel in what time he had left. Alan Rickman died in London on January 14, 2016, a month shy of his 70th birthday. Tributes poured in from across the film and theater world, with colleagues and fans alike remembering both the precision of his craft and the warmth those who knew him described in private. Richard St. John Harris was born on October 1, 1930, in Limerick, Ireland, one of 8 children in a family connected to the local milling business. He initially pursued rugby before a bout of tuberculosis redirected him toward acting, and he trained at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. Harris became one of the defining British and Irish leading men of the 1960s and 70s, delivering a searing, Oscar-nominated performance in This Sporting Life in 1963, and later starring as King Arthur in the musical Camelot, a role he loved so much he took it back to the stage decades later. He earned a second Oscar nomination for The Field in 1990 and remained a commanding, larger-than-life presence in British cinema for 4 decades. Known as much for his talent as for a famously turbulent, hard-living reputation in his younger years, Harris was cast as Albus Dumbledore for the first 2 Harry Potter films, bringing a gentle gravity to the headmaster that many fans still remember fondly. He was 71 when filming began in 2001, reportedly having accepted the role in part because his young granddaughter threatened never to speak to him again if he turned it down. Not long after filming the second installment, Harris was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. His health declined quickly, and after being hospitalized with pneumonia, he died on October 25, 2002, at the age of 72. His death meant the role of Dumbledore would pass to Michael Gambon for the remainder of the series. Harris's son, Jared Harris, has gone on to build his own respected acting career, including an acclaimed turn in the HBO series Chernobyl. Ichard Thomas Griffiths was born on July 31, 1947, in Thornaby-on-Tees in North Yorkshire, England, to deaf parents. As a child, Griffiths developed a pituitary condition that affected his growth and metabolism, contributing to a lifelong struggle with his weight, something he later spoke about candidly and often turned into a strength in his character work rather than letting it limit him. He trained at the Manchester Polytechnic School of Theatre and built a long, celebrated career on the British stage, eventually earning Olivier, Tony, and Drama Desk awards for his performance as Hector in Alan Bennett's The History Boys, both in London and on Broadway. On screen, Griffiths appeared in films including Chariots of Fire, Gandhi, Sleepy Hollow, and later the Pirates of the Caribbean series and Martin Scorsese's Hugo. In the Harry Potter films, he played Vernon Dursley, Harry's blustering, wizard-hating uncle, bringing comic exasperation to nearly every scene he was in, starting with the very first film in 2001, when he was 54. Griffiths married Heather Gibson in 1980, and the couple remained together for the rest of his life. On March 28, 2013, Richard Griffiths died at University Hospital Coventry at the age of 65, following complications from heart surgery. Daniel Radcliffe, who had worked closely with him on stage in Equus as well as on the Harry Potter films, spoke publicly of how much he had learned from him, calling him one of the most brilliant and generous people he had ever worked with. Robert Hardy was born on October 29, 1925, in Cheltenham, England, into an academic family, and went on to study at Oxford University, where he was taught by both C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. He became one of British television's most familiar faces over a career spanning more than 6 decades, perhaps best known to UK audiences for playing veterinarian Siegfried Farnan in All Creatures Great and Small, and for portraying Winston Churchill on screen more times than almost any other actor, a role he was widely considered one of the definitive interpreters of. Hardy joined the Harry Potter series in 2002 as Cornelius Fudge, the anxious and image-conscious Minister for Magic, a role he played across several films, starting when he was already 77 years old. Off-screen, Hardy lived a long and largely private life, devoted to history, literature, and the stage. In 2013, a rib injury sustained while rehearsing a Churchill stage production effectively ended his acting career. Robert Hardy died on August 3, 2017, at the age of 91, at Denville Hall, a retirement home for actors in North London, closing out one of the longest careers of anyone associated with the franchise. Born Anthony Robert Macmillan on March 30, 1950, in Rutherglen, near Glasgow, Scotland, Robbie Coltrane took a stage name in tribute to jazz musician John Coltrane. He trained at the Glasgow School of Art before moving into comedy and acting, and he became a major force in British television through the late 1980s and 90s, most notably as forensic psychologist Fitz in the acclaimed crime drama Cracker, a role that earned him 3 consecutive BAFTA awards. He also brought a memorable presence to the James Bond franchise as Valentin Zukovsky in GoldenEye and The World Is Not Enough. Coltrane was cast as the gentle giant Rubeus Hagrid in 2001, when he was 51, and remained with the role across all 8 Harry Potter films, becoming one of the most beloved and instantly recognizable figures in the entire series, thanks to his warmth, humor, and unmistakable voice. In his later years, Coltrane spoke openly about serious health struggles, including osteoarthritis, that left him needing a wheelchair and significantly limited his mobility. He continued to act as much as his health allowed. Robbie Coltrane died on October 14, 2022, at a hospital in Scotland, at the age of 72, following a period of declining health. Tributes from the Harry Potter cast and from across the industry described him as one of the kindest and funniest people they had ever worked with. Michael Gambon was born on October 19, 1940, in Cabra, Dublin, Ireland, though his family moved to London when he was young. He was largely self-taught as an actor, famously bluffing his way into an early audition, and went on to become one of the most respected stage actors of his generation, personally recruited by Laurence Olivier for the newly formed National Theatre in the 1960s. He earned widespread acclaim for his television work, particularly in Dennis Potter's The Singing Detective, and worked across an enormous range of stage and screen roles throughout his career. When Richard Harris died in 2002, Gambon took over the role, starting with the 3rd film, Prisoner of Azkaban, and remained in the part for the rest of the series, bringing a slightly more mischievous, energetic quality to the character that many fans came to love in its own right. In his final years, Gambon largely stepped back from acting, citing difficulty remembering lines, and lived quietly out of the public eye. Sir Michael Gambon died on September 27, 2023, in a hospital in England at the age of 82, following a bout of pneumonia, surrounded by family. Helen McCrory was born on August 17, 1968, in Paddington, London. She trained at the Drama Centre London and quickly built a reputation as one of Britain's most versatile stage and screen actresses, taking on roles ranging from Sherry Blair in The Queen to Medea on stage in a celebrated National Theatre production. She later became widely known to television audiences as the fierce, calculating Polly Gray in Peaky Blinders, a performance many consider among the best of the entire series. McCrory joined the Harry Potter franchise in 2009 as Narcissa Malfoy, the aristocratic mother whose quiet act of loyalty to her son ultimately helps determine the outcome of the Wizarding War, delivering a performance of real emotional depth in limited screen time. She was married to fellow actor Damian Lewis from 2007 until her death, and the couple had 2 children together. McCrory was diagnosed with breast cancer and kept her illness almost entirely private, continuing to work through much of her treatment. She died at her home on April 16, 2021, at the age of 52. Her husband later shared that she had not wanted her illness to define her, and that she wished to be remembered for her work and her generosity, including her charitable support for the NHS during the COVID-19 pandemic. John Vincent Hurt was born on January 22, 1940, in Shirebrook, Derbyshire, England, the son of a clergyman. He trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art and became one of the most distinctive character actors of his generation, delivering a devastating, Oscar-nominated performance as Joseph Merrick in David Lynch's The Elephant Man in 1980, following an earlier Oscar nomination for Midnight Express. He went on to appear in genre classics including Alien and later V for Vendetta, building a body of work defined by vulnerability and quiet intensity. Hurt joined the Harry Potter series in 2001 as Garrick Ollivander, the enigmatic wand maker who sells Harry his very first wand, a small but memorable role he revisited in later films. Off-screen, Hurt was known as a heavy smoker for much of his life, and in 2015 he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He announced he was in remission the following year, but the disease returned, and John Hurt died on January 27, 2017, at the age of 77, just days after his birthday. His death was met with tributes from across British film and theatre, honoring a career built on some of the most emotionally raw performances of his era. Vern Troyer was born on January 1, 1969, in Sturgis, Michigan, and grew up on his family's farm in an Amish community, where he was expected to keep up with the same physical chores as his siblings despite standing just over 2 feet, 6 inches tall, due to a form of dwarfism. He got his start in Hollywood doing stunt and body double work before landing the role that made him a global name, Mini-Me, opposite Mike Myers, in 1999's Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, a performance that turned him into an instantly recognizable pop culture figure. In 2001, Troyer appeared as Grip Hook, the sharp-eyed goblin who manages vaults at Gringotts Bank, in the very first Harry Potter film. In the years that followed, he spoke openly in interviews about long struggles with alcohol and depression, checking into treatment on more than one occasion. In April 2018, he was hospitalized following a mental health crisis, and on April 21, 2018, Vern Troyer died at a hospital in Los Angeles at the age of 49. A coroner's report later listed the cause of death as acute alcohol intoxication, ruled a suicide, and his family used the moment to speak publicly about the importance of mental health awareness, asking that his death be used to help others struggling with similar pain. Dame Maggie Smith was born on December 28, 1934, in Ilford, Essex, and became, over the course of nearly 7 decades, one of the most honored actresses in the English-speaking world. She won 2 Academy Awards for The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie in 1969 and California Suite in 1978, alongside numerous Tony, BAFTA, and Olivier Awards, cementing her as one of the last living legends of a golden generation of British theatre that included contemporaries like Judi Dench. Smith was 67 when she was cast as Professor Minerva McGonagall in the very first Harry Potter film in 2001, bringing exactly the blend of severity and hidden warmth the role demanded, and she remained with the series to its conclusion. In the years after, she found an entirely new generation of fans as the sharp-tongued Dowager Countess of Grantham in Downton Abbey. Smith faced serious health challenges in her life, including treatment for breast cancer in the